Welcome back. I found a few examples that I wanted to share. So I am in the middle of reviewing a batch. I know there's a few other items that we haven't talked about in reviewing HSP Part F, the musical information. On this one, the author was not included at all. So you see that I'm on the item card and that I've selected the entry that I want to go after the current entry. And I want to add a card there. So you see that we have James Taylor. James Taylor is actually the arranger. The author is actually, the composer is actually Auber. And so when you look through, I added a blank one. They had the composer James, right. And then they had the author of the words written by the author. And they had the sung by, I believe, Mr. Horn, sung by Mr. Horn. I don't think it's important to put aliases on there because it's a character, and we've been told if the names of the work have places or people's names in them, don't make cards for them. And if we don't know exactly who it is, if it's just like anonymous, we don't put cards for those. And then, of course, they have the place because it's New York. If we would have had a street address, we would have used the community. Since we don't, we defer to the state because we know that it's in the state of New York. They must have had some feedback on that from different people. So there have been cards that have said what his full name is. I've done enough cards to see, that somewhere we know his full names, but we can only use information on this card. Okay, so let's go back to that first card, the item entry, and the original people had put it in with James B. Taylor. Now, as I understand it, it's the composer that goes there first, if we know it. And so then this is written word for word in the card, skipping the name of the person at the top. Sometimes the name at the top will be written as just one name at the bottom, and I always include that full name. All right, so let's go to the beginning of this batch. Here we have like an index. That's no extractable data. You can tell by looking at it, but you got to pull it up anyway. Okay, my mouse isn't working. Here again we have a little bit of information, but we don't have where it's located. We don't have a call number, so we don't have a collection title or a call number, so that's no extractable data. And then this one we're starting at the end. See if there's some things I wanted to say here on this one. Here they put as performed by, and this is a title, so we strictly reserve whatever's written in the space. You could not have that on there. You could have it on there if you wanted to. On this card, nowhere did they have the composer's name because it's written after, and you kind of keep going down afterwards. You want to have everything on the card in there somewhere unless we've been told not to, as in the dates of the birth and death. More of the same. This time they didn't have the composer there. So I just added, I like to do composer and the name as it's written here, because then you don't have to worry about, oh, how am I going to add punctuation and make sure people know this guy's the composer, not that guy. Not the Alexander Kyle, who's the, he's the composer on this one. We've got it. All right, we've seen that one. There are times when here's the one where we've got New York as the part of the street address. Looks funky, but that's what it is. So we do put New York up here, and we have been asked in our review that if they have it down here in the state, to remove it, because I tried to fight for, well, you know New York's in New York, so why can't we leave that? Nope, I lost. Got to take it out. Okay, Mommy said. So again, let's see. Oh, she didn't put the ... dots. I kind of think those ... dots are important. So I err on the side, and some people have said you could put etc. I like to reserve the way it is, and I like to put it so that the I always spell it out, 3 period, P-A-G-E-S, P-A-G-E-S. E-S. Okay. I don't think when I talk sometimes. Okay, so let's see if we've got anything that... I know we wanted to talk about the publishers, and I sort of err on the side of if they don't like how I did it, it's easier for them to remove it from the card than for it to not be on there at all. So I don't think we have any multiple publishers. And here's the one we did to begin with. So then we're going to go into the situation where I haven't seen the cards yet. But if there were multiple publishers, we add them in additional text, and I just put publisher, and then, I put additional publishers and put their names in there, because the first one is here. And I always spell it out if we know. I know that there's some differences, like George is usually George's, but I haven't brought that up to her. William, we always thought was W-I-L. I got a card in the previous batch that he was Wilhelm, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I told her, and she added it to all the things. And whenever I get something weird, I just use my snippet tool, and I take a copy of the entire card. They don't like any partial cards. I give them my whole piece, so they can see what I've done, and they can tell me if they think that that's not right. And then I give them the information. And then they can give me feedback where I haven't heard them correctly. Now here we have some foreign language, and some people have been transcribing that in the paperwork here. But we don't. We put it just exactly as it's written in the card. If they put the diacritical marks, we put the diacritical marks. If they don't, we don't. If they pencil it in, you can use your judgment. So, I don't know. We got to kind of follow what they say. Now, they put song there, and they didn't put the title there. So this one we've got to has to be changed. And I'm choosing the composer name to be there. If it didn't have a composer, then I use whatever name is on there. She did have song on here, so that's good. And I would always make sure that everybody is there. And I could have copied and pasted this. I do that sometimes. Sometimes it's just faster just to type it out if I'm in the groove. I think that's a K. I could be wrong. I should probably Google it. So there gives you an example of more cards. Now let's see. And I would write out company. She didn't put the period, so you got to put the period in, or the company. If you know what it means, then I put it in there. The composer, the author, the place, one more card. And this time it's perfect because we don't add anything because they've given us a title. And the first line, flutter, flutter. Now, we don't have to put first line in there, they've said, but I always do. And then I just add it on. And I've lost my timer to say how much time I've got left on this recording. So I may pause it and figure that out. Use the composer. Got the period in. Good job. There it's New York up above because we've got an address, and there's the submit. So I did find the pause button, and while we watched, I noticed that I hadn't put in the ... and that I think Amy had an extra capital M, and so I fixed that one. And then Alexander back there somewhere had a missing N on it. I already did this once because I hit the pause button, so I can't find it right now. I also want to make sure that everyone knows that you can go to Facebook and ask Elmer Zink to add you as a member. And it says we can add members, but they don't like us to. And then you can get feedback immediately. You can share your batch code, and then you can get information on, is the system down? And it's pretty immediate almost all the time. So that's another resource that we have, anyone in the world has, go to share batch and ask if you can join. So at one time in our VROC 6 meetings, they mentioned that they needed missionaries to call as a family search missionary, the super indexers, and I had gotten one of those calls, and it was pretty uplifting to go, whoa, somebody knows I'm doing this and somebody appreciates it. And the head of this group that I'm in on Mondays from 10 till 11 is Dellery Matthews, and she showed us that we can go in and do reports. I probably can't do it off of that one. So even the one that you're on, you can tell if people, if there's been how people are doing, how you're doing in relation to the other people. So I did that one already. I wanted to go back. I wanted to go into our VROC group. So if it's already here, you can click on it. If it isn't, you can find the exact title. So I have a tool that I can find the exact title. It's because I'm doing that VROC mission. But if you can figure out, like people in my stake or whatever, but you can see how people are doing and generate reports on it. So it shows you numbers, shows you who's here, but you can do reports. I'm not sure if everybody can do reports. That might be a tool that I have. And so these are the defaults. It shows you how many numbers we've had and how much people have done. And so it's just sort of an interesting tally to see how much we've completed. If you wanted to look and see anything about it, just sort of interesting, kind of fun. So back to indexing tool. I just opened this batch up, but I think I will let you go. And then when I say that, I review the cards, and here's a call number. And so this is not no extractable data. This is one that we actually want to do, as is the one behind it. We actually have a call number. It is actually a piece, so we actually want to do that. We don't want to let anybody be left behind, left out. So we make sure that if there's a call number or a place where it's located, that we do it all. So I haven't done these, and the time is almost up. So it's fun to do. We just have to get into the mindset that we follow the rules as closely. We try to do our input, but then we just have to do it consistently with everybody else. And sometimes that's different than we would have done it on our own, but we're not the end users. And the good thing is it can be corrected all the way through. I've talked about my sister, my sister's family, when she passed, forgot that my mother was not, that my mother's mother married again. So my mother's name is my grandmother's last name in the obituary for her maiden name, which was not true. Her maiden name was the father's name that died before anybody knew him. And so even that can eventually be corrected with a note from the user. So there's lots of ways with the computers now that we can increase the accuracy of genealogy. But the important thing is to get the facts out there. So thanks so much for all that you do. We're doing a great work. Thank you.